Our next guest played 183 games with the Vancouver Canucks, including 34 in the Stanley Cup playoffs. He scored one of the biggest goals in the history of the franchise and has now moved into a very successful broadcasting and podcasting career in his native Quebec, where he's one of the members of La Poche Bleue, the number one sports podcast in La Belle Province. It is our pleasure to welcome back to the show, Mr. Max Lapierre. Max, how you doing?
Guys, I'm doing phenomenal. Thanks for having me on the show.
You're more than welcome. Speaking of doing phenomenal, boy, you've become a natural at this media thing. Well done, monsieur.
Well, it's a lot of fun, right? You guys know that it's pretty tough when you're done playing. You're looking for something to do, and it was pretty. I got lucky. It was easy for me. I think the pandemic pushed me out of the hockey world as a player and helped me being a media person now. Started a podcast with Guillaume Latendresse, which is my old teammate, and we just went from there. We're having fun. We're talking about hockey. We're talking about the fun stuff we had in our careers, and I guess it's the dream after career for me.
You always seem to have an opinion on the ice, so it's no surprise that this has worked out off the ice, right?
Yeah, things are a little different here. I'm a little more calm.
Well, Max, when the trade happened, we're like, wait a second, we got Kessler, Burroughs, and now you're adding this guy to the mix?
Yeah,
wow.
Exactly.
Man, that was the best time of my life. I mean, it was really tough at the beginning of the year, that year that I got traded from the Canadiens to the Anaheim Ducks, and it didn't feel at home in Anaheim. And then obviously when Alain Vigneault, my old junior coach, gave me the call, it felt unreal. I mean, it was great. It was a relief to go in a great team. First of all, what an organization. The teammates were phenomenal. Still remember my first meeting with AV. Just told me, listen, you got Henrik Sedin, you got Ryan Kessler, you got Manny Malhotra. I don't even know if I got ice time for you. So you're going to need to show me a little something. And at the beginning, obviously, I didn't have much. But when we got in the playoffs, I think I found my role within the team.
As people can hear, your English is spectacular. So it wasn't an issue of communicating, but did it feel kind of like home, considering there was a bit of a French mafia here at the time?
You know what? Yes, but the main thing was the leaders on that team. It was just the best I've seen by far. Whatever it's Bieksa, Amius, the Sedins, Luongo. Everybody was a great person. Like, I've never seen that in any other team, any other league. Guys were brothers, like we had dinner all the time on the road. Even at home, they were like, it's not every day you see stars players taking care of the third and fourth liner. Like, they're so important to the team, and I think this is what made this team special, and this is why they had success, right? If nobody was every role was important to the team, whatever you're a fourth liner or you're a trainer or you're a doctor or you're anybody working at the rink. I've never seen players respect their surroundings that way.
You're not in the room around the league right now, but I wonder if hearing that, is that a dying thing? Like, do you think there's still clubhouses like that, or you go in there and they're as tight as you guys were?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's rare though. Yeah, it's really rare, because I played in many teams, and that doesn't mean guys are bad people. It just sometimes it just doesn't click. It becomes like a workplace instead of a happy place. A little, if you understand what I mean. So, I mean, the leadership is so important in the NHL team, and we've had everything we needed in Vancouver that year.
Well, let me take you back then to Game 5, the 2011 Stanley Cup Final. Canucks won, Bruins no score. You score the goal, and I was thinking, Max, there are been more celebrated goals here in Vancouver, but never before had the Canucks been closer to a Stanley Cup than in that moment when you score that goal to win Game 5 in a 3-2 series lead. Take me back to that night, that goal, the emotion, and everything you experienced.
Well, first of all, like, the stress for that game when it's 2-2 in the Stanley Cup Finals, it's nerve-wracking. It's pretty tough. I remember it was tough to sleep in the afternoon, and it was a different feeling. And obviously, as a fourth liner, you're not going in the game and you're thinking you're going to score that big of a goal. You just want to do your little job, play well defensively, be physical, and then you're going to be happy with what you've accomplished that night. Then I scored that goal in the third period, and I remember I was just praying on the bench. I'm like, there's no way that it's gonna go down that way. Like I'm gonna be the guy scoring that one goal in a 1-0 game. And obviously the team played so well, but I was shocked after, because I remember my dad was living with me during the finals in Vancouver, and a lot of friends were coming all the time, and we decided to go for dinner after and in Vancouver. And man, I basically needed a bodyguard to go to the washroom. This is all like people were outside in the window cheering and knocking in the glass, and like basically coming and telling me this is the biggest goal in Canucks history, and if we win the cup, you're gonna have a you're gonna have a bronze statue. Like it was just a little bit too far. Like lots of emotion, and obviously that's always going to be a special moment for me. I think it's too bad we didn't win, but I mean the experience itself it was special, because I made some really good friends, and it was the best time of my life for sure.
Hey, we've talked about it a lot this year because once again the Canucks are in Nashville playing the Predators for a series, but you guys go the distance with Chicago. You go 6 games with Nashville before San Jose, and then one of the longest trips in the NHL to Boston for the Cup final. How physically taxing was all the travel and all the games in that 2011 playoff run, Max?
It's tough. I mean, playing in Vancouver, we all know it. There's a lot of traveling, but at the same time, I think this is what makes the group playing in Vancouver special, because we're always spending so much time on the road, so much time in like on the plane. So you have time to talk to your teammates. You have time to create like a great team bonding or team chemistry, and I think that this is great in the playoffs. Especially, you have the time to rest on the road and take care of just focusing on hockey. And yeah, you get tired, but I think this is not something you think about most of the time. Obviously, in the finals was a little different with Boston being the team we faced that year. But no, I mean it's tough. But the grind on the ice is tougher than the traveling. I mean that year Chicago was, I think, the biggest challenge for us, because it was more of a mental thing. Like facing them in the first round, it was tough for Vancouver at the time to beat them. And I think from there, with that special goal from Burrows, I think that something clicked, and it was just okay. Now we're ready. We're going all the way. And I'm looking at the playoffs right now, and it reminds me there's nothing easy. Like
Yeah.
I think right now everybody's thinking, oh, it's the Nashville Predators, but they're a really good hockey team, and they came in really confident in the playoffs. So it doesn't matter if you win in 6 or 7. You just need to win the series. There's no disappointment. And the loss last night, that happens. They're a great team. They compete, they battle, and hey, as long as you win at the end, that's the way to go.
Well, we're going to get back to this series in a second, but I just remembered that was, of course, the sleep doctor year. You guys had the best road record in the NHL. You were all wearing the smartwatches. Were you a good boy with the sleep doctor and the smartwatches, Max? Were you worried about what your data showed on those smartwatches?
No, not really. I mean, it was scary at the beginning. Guys were like, "What? Like, do they know everything about us? Like, like what time we get up or what time we're coming in?" And but at the end of the day, I think this is what's special in Vancouver. They always take care of their players, and they want to make sure they're ready to perform at the highest level. And man, it worked that year. We everything guys were performing on the ice. A lot of guys had a career season. There was the best they've played in their life. So the management must have done something great.
Is it an art or a science to eliminate teams? You guys had a devil of a time versus the Blackhawks, figured it out a little bit more cleanly versus the Nashville Predators in the second round. 5 games versus the San Jose Sharks, which gave you all sorts of rest before the Stanley Cup final, which of course couldn't eliminate them in 2 tries as well. I mean, is there something constant, or is it opponent dependent? Because this group of Canucks, of course, hasn't been together in the playoffs at all before. And Canucks fans are anxiously hoping they figure out how to eliminate teams, how to finish off a series here.
Yeah, that is the toughest thing to do, is to win the fourth win. And I think it's the teams that adjust the best. Whatever it starts with the coaching staff or the players, you need to adjust, and you need to be smart enough to understand that maybe you had something that worked the whole season and it won't work the next game.
Right.
Like this is what make teams. I think you look at Toronto right now. I feel like it took a little too long before they put Wall in net. Like they had a tough time with Samsonov. He went in the minors, he came back. So for me, it wasn't a stable position. just go with your gut. Just go with what is right for the team. Doesn't mean because you have success during 82 games that it works. Just look at Boston last year against Florida. So I think the teams that adjust the fastest and that can live the moment, because the game from last night and the next game doesn't matter. It absolutely doesn't matter even if you're down 3-0 in the series.
The other
Hey,
thing,
you were-
I was going to say, the other carryover is goaltender upheaval. You guys against the Blackhawks had to go through Schneider and Luongo, and well, some of that was coach's decision, of course.
Yeah.
Some of it was dehydration. Does that have an impact on skaters, or do they just assume that whoever's in net, they're going to do their very best, they're going to have our backs? Does the mayhem in net sort of play into you guys at all as skaters?
No, because from the outside world, you see like it's the backup goalie, but from the inside of the dressing room, it's two great goaltender, whatever in which team you're playing, because you go through the grind together, right? You see the backup goaltender work so hard all year and be there for his teammate, and he's always the first one to come in the room and say, "Don't worry, guys, we're gonna find a way." Like normally, backup goaltenders are really positive and likable people or teammates, and you're just happy whoever is in net when somebody has their chance to prove everybody that they're a great player. You want to work harder. You want to do everything for that teammate that was supporting you all year, even if you knew it was tough for him.
Max, you crossed paths with Rick Tocchet and Ian Cole with the 2014-15 Pittsburgh Penguins. Tell me about your experiences with both men.
Well, I played with Kohler in St. Louis as well, so he's a great guy. I mean, these type of defensemen, they don't exist anymore. You know, like they just go out there, they block shots with their face, they give hits, they do everything perfectly within the system. So I think you need these guys to win hockey games. And I think a lot of teams in the NHL don't understand that you don't need to be flashy to win. You need to be able to play your role and respect your role within the team. And I think Kohler is the perfect teammate for that. Doesn't matter for him if he has a goal, if he's +1, +5. He just wants to win, and this is what makes him special. And for Rick, I mean, he's just honest. You know, there's no bullshit with him. He's gonna come in and talk to you and explain his vision, and it's never feels like it's an order and he's got a power position. It's always like, hey, this is what I'm seeing, what do you think, you know? And then I feel like it's an open discussion, and obviously you respect the guy who was a hard player to play against, and he was competing every night. So for me, that's a big difference, and not every player is like that. But for me, people that play the game at the highest level, I have the tendency to respect them a little more, even if I know the other coaches, they do a great job and they work so hard. But when you look at a guy with scarf in his face and broken nose, and everybody behind the bench, by the way, in Vancouver, it's tough not to listen to them, right? It's tough not to respect them. So yeah, we have a few fights behind the bench, I think.
Lastly, Max, if the Canucks were to win this series and face off against Edmonton in round 2, how would you see that series?
It's going to be about the team, and I think there's a player right now that like in Lindholm, I think he's the perfect guy to play against McDavid and Draisaitl. You know, right now I understand that it's a tough transition to arrive in a team and you expect to win the Stanley Cup and have a big role, and it's a quick change, and everybody thinks because you're a star player that you're going to come in and you're going to score 3 goals every night. Doesn't work that way. Like it's tough off the ice. Your family needs to get used to it. You need to get used to your new teammates and line mates, your new role, and you always feel that special pressure that you're the new guy, and you don't want to be that guy that ruins it all for everyone, you know? So there's extra pressure there, and I think, and we're starting to see him play better, I feel like. And I think in the next round, if we go to the next round, he's gonna be a star player for the Canucks, because he always been in a discussion with the perfect two-way centers with Bergeron, Kopitar, and all these guys. He had great seasons in the NHL, and I personally feel he's gonna be the key if ever we face the Oilers.
That's a great show.
Before you go, I heard BX at the beginning of these playoffs talking about hearing U2 again being used and the towels and all that. Have you caught that on this set? And you'd be forgiven. I only saw it last night or game 4 for the first time. Game 5 for the first time. Have you seen it in this year's playoffs? Did it bring back any memories?
Yeah, goosebumps. That's there's so many moments in your career that every time you think about it, you actually feel like crying. For me, it's those entrants in Vancouver and Montreal with the Coldplay songs. Like I had special moments. Vancouver for me was the period of time where I had to make a decision as a player, which am I going to stay in the NHL and I need to find a role. And it was a lot of stress, but at the same time, it was the best moment. So yeah, 100% when you hear that song, so many great memories.
Yeah, 25 playoff games for the Canucks in 2011, played the full 82 the next year. And for our bilingual audience, we suggest check out Max Lapierre, Guillaume Latendresse on La Poche Bleu. Max, this has been fantastic. Great catch up, my friend. Thank you for the time. Wish you the best going forward. Let's do it again soon, okay?
Thank you, guys. Keep up the good work.
Hey, everybody, if you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres and Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.